Sal Capaccio joining us. It is a football Friday. It is also Halloween. Happy Halloween. Jeremy and Joe with you here on WGR. Join us on the YouTube stream and, drop a comment if you'd like. It is Football Friday. Football Friday brought to you by Salino Law. Car crash, call Salino. Call the 8s and buy Crosby's Pizza and Subs. Crosby's hometown fuel, game day ready since 1922. Sal, I don't know if you've been watching the stream. We are in costume. Joe's an astronaut. I'm the Grinch because I had this costume.
We definitely didn't coordinate. Like, the four of us are not.
No, there's no theme.
We're all very different types of costumes.
Owen is Tony Soprano or the Dude in The Eye of the Beholder.
Yeah.
And Joe Kelly is Clark Kent and Superman. So, what do you got, Sal? What are you wearing? That's I guess I'm going. So, I'll start with that. What are you wearing?
Wow.
You dressed up?
Currently some joggers and a hoodie, to be quite honest with you.
Okay, right.
But I don't think that's going to go over well for Halloween. I have not thought about it. I'll be in for extra point show today, but I won't be on the video stream, so I don't think I have to.
Okay.
I don't think I have to impress for the bullpen.
Well, that's
but I do
unfortunate.
feel kind of like small now. Like, oh well, everybody else is doing this. I'm not.
It would be hilarious though if we got you asking a serious football question in a costume with Sean McDermott.
Yeah, you're just like the Tin Man. The Tin Man from Wizard of Oz is asking about Shaq Thompson. That's
right.
what I'd like.
Yeah, that would be a little bit weird. I don't. Although he might not see that, right?
True.
But
No, he wouldn't.
Everybody else would see it for sure.
Yeah, it'd be funny.
Well, I did look on the stream this morning, and that is the first thing I noticed. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that's right. And then I realized, oh yeah, it's Halloween because I saw you guys.
Yeah.
So that means people are supposed to bring us candy. All right, Sal, let's get to a Football Friday. This game's been talked about quite a bit. We got a little bit more here. We got the deadline. Joe and I are going to get some receiver targets as well that are ESPN. Is that where this is?
Albert Breer.
Okay.
Albert Breer released like a bunch of it's like the equivalent of Friedman's 32 Thoughts. He's got something on every team in the league going into the deadline, and then he had a separate article which was 7 teams the Bills should trade for, 7 receivers the Bills should trade for.
All right. So, Sal, injuries, of course, play a factor here, and what's going on at defensive tackle is going to play a factor here, what their answers are at safety. Let's get to the Barnes Firm Injury Report, brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Injured? For help, call 1-800-8-MILLION. Names to watch, the biggest stories on this injury report coming into today.
I think it's Shaq Thompson. He has been limited now for – I'm sorry, he was limited on Wednesday, and then he did not practice yesterday with a hamstring injury. And what was interesting about that was we were told by Sean McDermott that he would be limited as a vet rest day on Wednesday. And then when it came out, he was listed as hamstring, not vet rest like Jordan Phillips and like Joey Bosa those same days. So something must have happened that day that kept him out of practice yesterday. So that would be, I think, number one, especially considering how he played last week, the role he's been playing for this team, the fact that we had this discussion about the linebackers, what McDermott said about Bernard, the injuries there. Now, the good news is Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard, who both did not play last week. Of course, Bernard was suited up but didn't play. They're both full participants for 2 days in a row, so that's really good. So I think that trends towards them obviously playing in the game on Sunday. We'll see where that goes. But it would be a blow to not have Shaq Thompson and his versatility and ability to help out at linebacker, no matter how you want to kind of slice how they look there. The other one is, there's two really. Number one is Matt Prater. He has a right calf injury that's been limiting him for 2 straight days. So what do they do at kicker there? Is Matt Prater good enough to kick in a really, really big game at Highmark Stadium? Or is there an issue where they're going to have to visit either bringing someone in from the outside or even activating Tyler Bass? They could do that at any time. He doesn't have to practice. They could literally just say, IR designated to return and activate it onto the 53 by 4 p.m. on Saturday. Then they would have to make a roster move. But let's see what Sean McDermott says about Matt Prater there. Go ahead.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. I don't know that you would know the answer to this, but I've never thought about this before. Participating in practice, you have to be activated from the IR to practice. How would that apply to a kicker? Can a kicker kick in the facility but not at practice? Like, if would the Bills know Tyler Bass is doing just fine? He's at the facility working out, and for him, practice is just kicking a football. So how might that work?
Yes, he could do that.
Great. Okay.
He could do that on his own. He could do that on his own and at the facility. You just can't do it with his team practicing.
Okay.
It would be no different than when you saw Max Hairston running with a trainer.
Right.
But in theory, if he was in the field house with like Reed Ferguson and the Bills punter, like that would be he would get in trouble for that.
Correct.
But he could do it on his own with his buddy.
A trainer. He can work
Or
with a trainer.
right?
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Yes.
All I'm getting
Yes,
at
they
is
could look at that. That's right. Because when Max Harrison is working with a trainer, you see him doing DB drills.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
All I'm saying
so it would be the same kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm only trying to say it feels like of all the players that you'd be able to know, oh, he's fine, it feels like Tyler Bass would be at the top of the list in terms of how easy that would be to know.
That's right. And
Okay.
he also could work out like Max Harrison did. We haven't seen that, but we have seen him walking around,
Okay.
Yeah.
you know, and out at practice. So, you know, that is right. If they wanted to, they could say, okay, he's ready to go. We're going to put him right on the 53. Let's see where it goes with Matt Prater before that discussion. Now, Joshua Palmer did practice yesterday in a limited capacity. That's good to see. Feels like, though, that going DMP to limited on Thursday, probably a little too early to think that he could play on Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't know about Gabe Davis, though. Now, the one guy not on here is Gabe Davis, but he is someone certainly to monitor because he's only on the practice squad. Now, if you put somebody on IR designated to return, you must put them on the injury report. If a guy's on the practice squad, it doesn't matter if he's coming off injury or not. He's not on the injury report. He's not on the active roster. But he's a guy to monitor because we know he's coming back, and we just don't know when, or at some point they're going to probably put him on the 53, and that would be an elevation most likely.
Do you think it matters at all when we brought up Hairston for this? So like how he kind of went right back in, but he had well, I guess how many was it? Like how many practices did he have during the spring and then like the first week of training camp versus Davis? Where I guess I'm getting at like would they feel comfortable with him playing after only a couple of practices all year? Like, so he didn't do, I don't think, anything when he was in Jacksonville in the spring. He wasn't here during training camp doing anything. Like, Harrison at least did some stuff before he got hurt. Davis, it would just be like, you are just going right in, basically.
So I do think it matters, Joe, but I think this also is a special case because he's been here. He knows the offense. You know, it's not like he's totally unfamiliar. It is actually it's a question I asked in a different way to him, which was getting acclimated with Josh Allen. And, you know, even though he's been here, and he said, well, look, I did leave for a year and learned a whole new offense, and now I got to come back. He said, but there's really, you know, him and Josh know each other so well, that's pretty seamless for him. So that tells me I don't think they would have any problems with that. Now, as far as conditioning, and if that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
You know, Gabe's been, like we talk about Tyler Bass, Gabe's been doing stuff before this. He's been running and doing the stuff off to the side that he needs to do to get ready. I don't think they'd have any issues as long as they felt that he couldn't re-injure himself or he's in a good spot. I think that would be, they would not think, well, he didn't do anything a while back. I think it's just simply, where is he right now? Do we think that he did enough to get, you know, in shape, condition, and not have a threat of injuring himself? And I think they would be fine with putting him on the roster if they felt that was the case.
Right. That's more what I was getting at. But you're right. Like, I mean, he has been doing some stuff, and it's not like he would be playing every snap anyway if he was to go out there. Especially, I mean, if Josh Palmer is nearing a return, I mean, the numbers at receiver suddenly, even if Davis was active, I don't know how many snaps would be available to him in the first place.
I keep thinking about this, which is, I don't think right now, as I sit here now, that Joshua Palmer is going to play. Sure, he could. But even, let's say if he didn't, then you could elevate Gabe if you wanted. That would give you 6 receivers still, minus Josh Palmer, which is normally what they go into a game with, right? But what if Palmer is okay to play and they want him to play? You could elevate Gabe. The natural thought is, I think conventional wisdom is, somebody is going to be inactive. It doesn't have to be. They could choose to have 7 receivers active. I know it would sound like a fat number. I get it. But you could trim from somewhere else around the roster now that, especially that Max Harrison's available to play. And, you know, so you could look at it that way. But you're right. You'd probably look at having 6 wide receivers. And if Josh Palmer, the other part of it is you can go 5. If Josh Palmer is not playing, it doesn't mean you have to elevate Gabe Davis. You can go with 5 receivers. So I think 5, 6, or 7 is all possible.
Well, we could be headed for, Sal. Like, maybe the deadline is important here. If they feel like Davis can give them something off the practice squad and Palmer is back at either this week or next week, or they know that that's happening. I mean, we're talking about this for game day. If they were to add another receiver, even a low-level one, like, or if it was a higher-level one at the deadline, like, someone's getting cut eventually here, right?
I guess I think that numbers-wise it says probably Joe, but I don't know who that would be, where you would go, right? Again, if you say it's Tyrell Shavers, there's some special teams consideration there. It doesn't have to be the end-all, be-all, but he's been helping you there. He's been, you know, Tyrell Shavers was on the field the first play of the game last week. He was a starter, and he's a willing blocker. And I know that people hate hearing that from wide receiver, but it's an important role in their offense for someone they want. It doesn't have to be. You can carry 7. Teams do that sometimes. But, yeah, it would feel like you'd almost need to do that in some capacity.
Sal Capaccio joining us on the Western Hotline. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2552. Get some questions from you guys with Sal that kind of lead us through this matchup in our game preview on a Football Friday. Mark in Myrtle Beach. Hey, Mark, good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing today? Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Yeah, you too.
I'm just curious as to why, just with the Atlanta game, it seemed like our receivers just couldn't read the blitzes, and nobody was open for a hot read or anything. It's like they continue to run their regular route. I don't know if it's a lack of trust in the receivers or Josh just wasn't reading the high receivers, but I wasn't seeing anybody even attempt to get open right away for a hot read.
Well, that's
thanks, Mark.
Yeah, that's part of it. But also, we talked about this earlier, right? In the week that the Chiefs are one of the blitz heavier teams in the league with the Falcons, and maybe Carolina didn't do that, Sal, last week, but the Bills saw what happened against Atlanta. Like what they do to counter a blitz. It doesn't have to be receiver base. I mean, they could lean more into James Cook in the run game as an answer to that, which they didn't really do a lot of against the Falcons.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I mean, to diagnose and to try and figure out for the caller's answer. I don't have one right answer for you. I don't think it's just receivers not reading hot reads. I think it starts up front. I think in that game it did. I think in that game it started up front with the blitz. They had exotics, and let's remember, Jeff Ulbrich is the defensive coordinator for the Falcons. He had been in the division with Josh, and we all know that the Jets actually, where he was for several years, the Jets have given Josh some issues in the past, right? And the Bills, he knows that offense, and he also had 2 weeks to get ready for that game, and I think he dialed some things up, and there were some exotic looks. They're not just a blitz-heavy team, the Falcons. I think they did it from ways that maybe they hadn't done all year and seen on film, and that started up front. Then, yes, I think you need your receivers to recognize that. There's no doubt. I also think you need to get your running backs involved a little more. There were a few times where I think we all saw and talked about that the Bills probably should have, and Josh should have, looked at a running back to throw it to in those situations. So I think there's just a lot that went into that game. The Panthers didn't blitz as much, but they didn't, the Bills didn't have to read it a lot. They didn't have to throw the ball that much. First half, they weren't on their game, but it wasn't specifically because of that. I would look for them this week to be better at that. Now, yes, the Chiefs do blitz at a higher rate than most teams in the league. But still, compared to the Falcons, it's still a lot less. I mean, I got what I get from Pro Football Reference, and there could be different sites on this, but it's generally about right. The Falcons are 40%, which is number 2 in the league. The Chiefs are at number 5, but it's all the way down to 29%, which is kind of more normal in the league. It's a higher normal. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, I've got the Chiefs at 30% and the Falcons at 40%. But yeah, Sal, this is, you can say whatever you want about if you like their receivers or quarterback, how he's playing, or the line. But this is something that it's top of the list of things they will have to fix. However they fix it, how Allen is playing when pressured and how they can beat a blitz. Sometimes he's not seeing it. Sometimes there's a protection mistake and there's a free runner. Sometimes a receiver's doing the wrong thing. Everybody's got a piece of this offense in terms of what it lacks. And passing the test this week would be a lot because a top 5 blitz team that especially Steve Spagnuolo has dialed up blitzes that have ended your seasons, Yep. So it's a big test this week, and I'm eager to see if the Bills have their answers, whether that's an answer from Allen or Brady or Khalil Shakir or James Cook. This is something that I think it's indisputable they will need answers to.
No doubt, and they're going to have some other things, the Chiefs that is, extra things, but it is a defense you've seen plenty of times. We say it all the time. It's like a division game. The head coach hasn't changed on the other side. The coordinators haven't changed. Well, for the most part. On defense, it hasn't changed on the other side for Kansas City. So it's definitely a team that you're a little more familiar with, and they're going to do some things. Now, we just talked about the blitz. The difference between the Chiefs and the Falcons, the Chiefs actually don't get home a lot, guys. Right? They don't have huge pressure rates. They don't have huge hurry rates. They don't have huge sack numbers. They blitz you. They try to do things to confuse you because that's what Steve Spagnuolo does and force you into mistakes. But they don't have these really amazing sack and pressure numbers. And if you blitz and you can handle the blitz, that's when you can make things happen. And that's, to me, kind of what the Bills have done a few times in the regular season games, especially even in the playoffs games. I guess the Bills have actually scored pretty well against them in the playoff games. That's where the Bills have had some success against them. Josh a little off script, right? Figuring out extending plays. Remember the whole Jim Nantz, the play of the year, call last year, right in the 4th down. when you're gonna do those things, if you don't get home, that's where I need Josh and the receivers and the running backs and everybody to be better. It's not just the hot reads. Yes, those are great. The caller's right about that. Where I think the Bills have lacked more this year too is extending those plays and the whole, okay, Josh needs to be Superman. Look, that's part of football, right? I mean, like, it doesn't matter. Lamar Jackson last night, I'm watching him. They do the same thing. If he can extend a play for an extra couple seconds and find a receiver, that's been some of the magic potion of the Bills for over the years, and that hasn't been there as much this year.
Yeah, it's weird. The Chiefs this year, I've seen a lot of criticism that their defensive line isn't playing as well, so I almost wonder if they're blitzing out of necessity, whereas Atlanta can get home. Like, James Pierce is a good rookie. Leonard Floyd's given them a lot as a veteran. Like, maybe they do it because it's part of their DNA. Not to say that isn't true of Spagnuolo, but, like, have you seen that too, Sal? Like, Karlaftis and Jones, like, maybe they're not giving Kansas City what they have in the past?
I think from a standpoint of pass rush, sure. You know, the whole thing with Chris Jones is he's amazing. He's all world, right? There, every once in a while you'll get he saves himself for the critical plays and the critical downs, right? And you kind of see that on film. But, I mean, the guy's just amazing. I would never personally say, like, I just think he's great in any play he can make a play. So either way, my point is Karlaftis, though, yeah, I think I've heard a little bit of that. So, again, I'm going to reference Pro Football Reference. You might have something on you're looking at that you can go to. Here's a number I'll give you. So we just talked about the Chiefs. Their blitz percentage is 5 in the league. You know what their quarterback hurries per dropback is? Last in the NFL. 3.4% they're getting hurries on a quarterback per dropback. 3.4%.
Well, I do wonder if any of that is game script. You know, like, if it's late in a game, do they just drop back and play prevent? I don't know, but that's
well, yeah, but they haven't been, like, I mean, what's their record? It's like, yeah, they've had a couple wins here, but it's not like they've been late in games blowing teams out all year.
Well, the last 2 games they have.
Right.
But so, whatever. It's definitely a concern if they're not hurrying the quarterback. They're blitzing a lot, not getting there. 803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. The Chiefs' offense, of course, against this Bills defense. You know, we're talking about the blitz against the Bills. How about what the Bills maybe plan to do against Kansas City? Cage rush, keep Mahomes in, try to get him to, stay in and just collapse the pocket. That's what this pass rush really needs to do. It's not about that sexy edge rush. It's going to be about collapsing the pocket and just kind of swallowing him up with their rush from inside, and Bosa, Rousseau, whoever's on the outside, making sure they don't let him out of the cage.
Yeah, I'm really interested going forward how the Bills use Michael Hoyt, especially now with Ed Oliver out, right? Ed Oliver is a pocket collapser, you hope he would be, and that's what his kind of specialty is, on passing downs from the inside, from the interior. And I talked with Michael Hoyt about this, and he said when you go back and watch the game against the Panthers, that's where it started. Once they start to, push on the interior, that's where you get a quarterback has to get off his spot, and now the edge rushers can do their job, right? He said, but you're facing a different animal in Patrick Mahomes. This isn't Andy Dalton. This is a guy, Patrick Mahomes, who can move forward, he can move backward. He's very good moving around, scrambling. The Bills have been hurt by that. He said, so you have to be really disciplined in what you do on the edge, but that's where it starts, is the interior. I'm really interested how they use Michael Hoyt, and I know that now the Bills have had 1 game of film on him. So the Chiefs have a game of film on him. They can take a look at how the Bills did use him, but now the Bills will have another opportunity to say, okay, we're going to move him around and kind of show some different things we haven't seen with him. So you're right. And that could include, by the way, the interior. So if you're looking for an interior pass rush, yeah, you could put Michael Hoyt on the inside and still have Rousseau and Bosa on the outside. But you got to get him in 3rd and long, guys. That's the key, right? Because if the Chiefs are sitting in 3rd and short all day, that's too tough. We just saw this the other day when they played their the last game they just played, and they, it's like, okay, here you go, Commanders, Monday night. Oh, here's a chance, bam. Well, there's Travis Kelce for 5 yards when they needed 3, right? Here's a chance, bam. Well, there's, a little slant pattern to Hollywood Brown for 6 yards when they needed 4. You got to get them in 3rd and long to have that be effective.
Sal Capaccio joining us here on a Football Friday. You're coming up 10 o'clock. Sean McDermott, Patrick Hammer, the usual suspects here on a Football Friday? Yeah,
for sure. Going to get a weather check. I had Tracy Wolfson on yesterday as I did the Northtown Automotive Extra Point show live on location. So she was on, and she said at the end, I didn't even do the Mike Shope thing. Do you have any questions for me? She just said, I have a question for you. And I'm like, oh. And then she said, what's the weather Sunday? and I said, well, Pat's going to come on. I said, I think we're looking at mid-40s, and pretty nice. And she said, okay, I'll take that. Well, later yesterday, I checked the weather. And I saw, 52, 53 maybe now. So I texted Tracy. I said, good news. I think we're up to mid-50s. So a couple sideline reporters getting real excited about maybe mid-50s, but we'll see from Pat because I think rain is going to be around. I just don't know if it's going to be Sunday. So we'll see. That's going to be interesting. And yes, bearing the lead here, Sean McDermott will be on. I'm guessing a little after 11 again today, production meetings and things like that. So just be aware. We'll get an update on injuries, see if anybody is ruled out and what the practice status looks like for today.
All right, very good. Sal Capaccio joining us here on Football Friday. Thanks, Sal. We'll be listening at 10 o'clock.